Okay, so silence on the set. Everyone that's not talking should be muted. And I'm going to start the countdown from 10 and I'll stop at 5. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Welcome to the Virtual Film Company studio on spatial.io. Meet here every 2 weeks where we do a show on various aspects of technology. Lately, we've been focused on AI, and today we're going to close off the year. So this is our end of the year show, and we'll be starting up again in January, the second week of January, with more exciting stuff. Probably a whole bunch of changes between now and then in the AI world. Today we're going to talk about a number of interesting topics to do with AI and some of the interesting developments out there. So the first topic that we're going to talk about, which is of a lot of interest to myself and Chris here, because other people that study telecommunications, and of course those that live in the EU, because the EU recently, I believe it was December 9th, the Parliament reached a provisional agreement to adopt a law on AI. And it's very interesting. We'll go through some of it, but I'm just going to hand it over to Chris, since he is our EU representative, to perhaps introduce that a little bit more. So, Chris.
Right. Yeah. So, hey guys, and it sounds very serious. Like the European Union decided a big law, the so-called EU AI Act, and well, I mean, it's interesting, and everyone is aware that artificial intelligence is bringing a lot of changes. I mean, in the working field, also about privacy. We're able to generate images with AI, videos as well, analyze any kind of documents or whatever. Now, a lot of people were concerned, like, uh, how can companies in the future use that? And how is it going to be applied in the working environment? So now they decided for several rules. And for example, they forbid several things. So the large language model and companies and AI models are not allowed, for example, to collect and use biometric and sensible information. And those sensible informations in this case are informations about sexual orientation, the origin of a person, the political confession, or the religion. So you're not allowed to collect or use data like this within artificial intelligence. Also, automatically using fake recognition and tracking is not allowed with an AI system. Funny thing, I mean, we we already have several systems in, let's say, train stations or whatever, the camera, intelligent cameras, PDZ cameras that are zooming around and tracking faces. And I think that most smartphones today can track a face, but well, an AI model is not allowed, basically. Yeah, also very interesting. AI recognition of emotions is not allowed. For example, they said in the working environment, when there's a camera and they would film you, and your boss could maybe have an AI analyzing if you're happy, if you're concentrated, or if you're maybe whatever, distracted. It's not allowed to do that. What else do we have? What is forbidden? Social scoring is forbidden as well. Apps that are using or manipulating weaknesses, that's quite broad. I can discuss about that. And also very interesting, predictive policing, like have an AI that scans the environment and says, probably this person over there is going to, I don't know, go into this liquor shop and rob it, right? Stuff like that is not allowed. Exceptions are if something, also for face recognition and so on, it might be used for law enforcement. So on the one hand, it's forbidden. On the other hand, maybe it's allowed for law enforcement. Um, yes. So they also want a digital watermark for AI-generated material. And the large language models have to be documented in a special way. And there must be a transparency. So the how they work and stuff like that has to be documented for a large language model. Well, so this is a package, let's say, right? A lot of rules. And the big question is, are they going to be really working? And we have to think about one thing. Those rules are now just in this act, and every single country in the EU has 2 years to apply them in their local law. So it's, again, 2 years you have to wait until these rules are really coming up.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
That's
So
that how it's good.
the thing that I think is interesting with it is the law enforcement. So basically any government agency is allowed to do it, but if you are a business, you are not permitted to do it. And it's worded very loosely, so it'll be very interesting to see what this even actually means, right? I think we got 2 years to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, basically, my understanding is that they took a risk management approach to this and actually split it up into, acceptable risks, or actually starting at unacceptable risk, high risk, limited risk, and minimal no risk. And they seem to have spent a lot of time looking at what the risks are rather than what the benefits are. And one of the examples that sort of made me laugh in some ways, I mean, it's funny, but it's, they used the example of a child's toy that through AI could basically condition the child, so radicalize the child, if you will. And that was used as an example. But, then I think of things like TikTok and, everything else, social media, other social media, where kids have access to it. And yes, we are trying to tighten up what kids can get to. But, again, I mean, I've said this so many times, why is AI all of a sudden under, so much scrutiny when, when the computer was invented? Why didn't we all rise up and say, in the future, this is going to be able to take people's jobs? Or, weren't people, I don't know, what's made, is it this fear of AI created by science fiction, for example, that has spurred all of this? And again,
Yeah,
I
the
believe
Terminator.
regulation.
It's the Terminator. Yep. That Terminator movie has people frightened.
Yeah, because people definitely seem to be frightened that some of this is just not rational. And, as both of you, Chris, mentioned, there are loopholes here where, and here in America, we have the same loopholes, right? Where, you can't do this unless there's a court order that's signed off by a judge. But, law enforcement and prosecutors and all of those people generally have judges in their back pockets. And we've seen some examples of that recently where, we've had warrants issued for small local newspapers and actually died of a heart attack as a result. So there's just, when they say no, I mean, that's the problem, right? Is if you limit companies and people from using the technology, but you still let the government use the technology, then the government that's in control of the stuff, and they can use it to manipulate people however they want. I mean, here in America, however absurd it sounds, the Supreme Court has ruled that it's legal for a politician to lie. And I don't know about Europe, but to me, that's just the most insane thing I've ever heard a court rule. But I think one of the big things here too is that this is, as you said, it affects multiple countries, and this is a problem we face in the U.S. is where there is going to be an attempt, I think, to regulate, but companies are self-regulating. For example, YouTube has announced that on January 1st. I haven't received an announcement myself yet, but they've said this in the press that starting 2024, let's just say that date, they are going to require creators to state, and I've read what they're going to require creators to state, and my interpretation of it is that if you shoot a video, for example, with a straight video camera, an analog video camera, and in the background you have a background that was created by AI, you would have to disclose that. You have to disclose every single bit of what was used there that was created by AI, which again, I think is totally ridiculous. I mean, it's like, when Photoshop came out, did we have to put a big disclaimer on, this was made by Photoshop? Or when the word processor came out, danger, danger, this was done by a word processor. It wasn't done by a typewriter. I mean, these are just illogical things to me. I mean, just totally illogical. So there's my rant.
Oh my goodness. Does that mean everybody that now is going to, if they post a picture, it needs to be advertised if there's a filter on it as well, and what filter? Because if we're going to be real, why not?
Yeah,
let's advertise make sure that filter. Yeah.
Well, but okay, so no, you could, go into Photoshop and you could, take a picture with a camera or draw one or whatever means. I mean, you can manipulate the hell out of it, and you can apply filters, and you can do whatever, and you can post it without saying a word about how it was made, right?
Right.
If you change one little thing in that image, now it, I mean, and these companies are trying to have it so that, these images are now watermarked, either visually or digitally, that, there's stuff in the metadata about, what it started off with. And, as we'll speak about later, I mean, we have Mid-Journey that's driving certain things that I don't agree with, and this come back to this discussion. But anyway. Any more thoughts on the EU, or should we move on to our next topic?
Well, I thought we were going to be starting with... Go ahead, John. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I mean, we have 2 years to wait now to see what's going on. And I don't think they will change that. The companies will have to somehow make it work in those different countries, and we will see that some countries will really be after that, and others probably not. So, well, let's see. 2 years. I don't know where we are in 2 years with generative AI. World could be different.
Oh, it will be different. It will be different. Even, we're seeing how fast this stuff moved in the last year with this just GPT chat coming out, and where it is at in 1 year. So you can only imagine where it's going to be at in 2 years. I don't even know.
Yeah, but as much as I love AI, and I really do love AI, I wish we could focus on actual problems that we have in this world, like countries invading other countries and people killing people, and the poverty, and I mean, globally, we have a problem with migration, right? And I think we need to all come together as a world, as a Earth, or whatever we're going to call this place that we live on, and solve it. Because migration has been going on for, ever since the beginning, right? And it's just now that people are, well, I don't think it's just now. I mean, it's always been that, people have a fear of foreigners and integrating them in society, but I think just, you need to be more civilized. That's it. And I'll end on that. Sorry.
Right. So yeah, let's move on.
Okay. And so our next topic is,
Yeah, we have several news basically from the AI world.
yeah,
And for example, a lot of different new models are getting out. There was one model that, well, was discussed a lot in the last weeks. I don't think that we really spoke about that in detail, and that is the big new model from Google, Gemini. And there was a big announcement video that showed fantastic possibilities. Like there was the video that showed a person doing something with his hands, and it in this video it looked like that Gemini would recognize that and say, hey, you're doing this sign or whatever with your hands, like sign language or whatever. Like, it looked like Gemini would be able to uh, recognize that in real time. And in the end, when people looked into the paper, they saw that, well, that video was not real time, right? So they feeded single images of the hand showing the sign language or whatever into the model. It was not a video that was in real time analyzed by the Gemini model. And everyone thought like, oh my goodness, why are they showing this type of video where everyone thinks like, oh my goodness, they are 100 years ahead now. And in the end, they did that with single images, something you could do with other models as well. So there was quite some people that were really, really upset about that. So at the moment, as far as I know, there is a model called Gemini Pro that can be used. There is a Gemini Mini or a tiny version that will run on mobile devices. And in the big version, Ultra, Gemini Ultra, will just be released next year, beginning next year. And this model should be able of doing great things, right? So, well, I hadn't got the chance to use it yet.
yeah, I've been lucky enough to use it, but like all of these things, there's so many new developments that are coming out, and it's hard to give each one of these products, platforms, in LLMs, whatever the next thing is, enough time to really get to know it. I mean, one of the interesting things that I found about Google and this particular topic is that they're offering developers a credit of up to $350,000 to build cloud-based AI apps. So, that's definitely worth looking into. I did test out the pro version to basically write a book, and it did a much better job than ChatGPT or some of these other LLMs out there. It was able to come up with chapters and then actually add to those chapters. So it knew what it was doing, but obviously had like all of these things. There's a price to be paid if one keeps going, and we'll definitely want one to integrate into their whole back-end cloud system. And although, I mean, as you said, they're also working on smaller version of this to run on cell phones. They also have Studio Bot. I mean, and that's a problem, I think, with Google, right? I mean, this seems to be indicative of all of Google's products, that they bring out a product and, they give it a name, and then, under that product, there's all of these subcategories, and, one really has to continue to explore them and, just check out what's there. So, I mean, and there's always something, right? There's always something. So this morning, well, last night, I was reading that, Microsoft Copilot has formed a partnership with a AI music company. And so today I was playing with that, and I was actually pretty impressed with the. It took a while. It took about 10 minutes or so for it to actually. I told it to, write a song about a particular topic, and back and had both the vocals and the music. So yeah, I mean, they're interesting, and I think we have a battle going on now between all of these companies, and one we haven't mentioned is Grok, is X's LLM, and someone has already supposition that they stole stuff from OpenAI, and I mean, it goes around. And then it takes us back to the beginning of all of this: is where do they get the content from to even develop these AIs? And we're seeing a lot of issues as a result of people writing garbage content. And I think, at some point we'll probably see garbage images where these AIs and learn from that garbage. Start seeing a.
Well, they do say one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah, but I think up till, I mean, it's content, but it's also, if it's badly written, then, the AI learns that, okay, this word can be spelt in different ways, or you don't need to put, a space in between words, and it just, or it's fed misinformation. And, I think no matter how good these models get, one always needs to go through what is produced and look at it and read it, and not just say, oh, I'm now letting my. And this, to me, is the danger of AI, right? If you want to ask me a danger, is that people just become so complacent that they totally trust that the machine is going to do the right thing, and forget that it's a machine. And for all of us that have used computers, I mean, I don't know of anybody, and maybe there is someone in this world that has been involved with computers that doesn't have problems with the computer. Pretty much, it's like a fact of life. You own a computer, there's going to be some maintenance upkeep that you have to be doing, and at some point things are just going to go south where it slows down. And
I think that happens just with technology, John, right? Like anytime you're dealing with any kind of technology, like you're ready to go, and all of a sudden maybe the technology today is not ready for you to go. It wants to throw some hurdles at you to see how you can adapt and overcome the challenges. Sometimes I feel like it just happens when you're working with it. It's like, when it's working fine, nobody wants to be like, oh, it's working great today, because we just expect it to work good all the time, or just have problems all the time.
yeah, I mean, that's very true. And I mean, you have to look back at the Second World War, where the term gremlin signify something, British did signify something that had affected the function of, airplane, whatever, that couldn't anticipate it. It just went wrong. I think, now we've changed that term to bugs, right? We bug in the system. So anything more on this, Chris, that we need to cover or talk about?
With Gemini, I don't think that there's much to be added. We will see what's happening when the Ultra model will be released, if something will really be that advanced in comparison to all the other models. And when we talk about all the other models, the small models are, they are getting better and better, and you have more and more of them. So talking about the Orca 2 and Mixtral model. Orca 2 is from Microsoft, and Orca 2 is trained on Llama. So basically, it's a very nice small model. It's just about, I don't know, 4 gigabyte when you download it. There are different sizes. I think there's also an Orca mini model with just 2 gigabytes. So the 4 gigabyte and the 2 gigabyte models, they can definitely run on mobile devices, right? And I tested them a little bit. I'm always having my basic tests, like I'm asking them to sort a list of persons that I describe in a text, like Jack is richer than John, and John is richer than Simone, who's poorer than blah, blah, just to see if 5 or 6 different iterations of objects can be sorted correctly. And several of the bigger models had problems with that. And those small models at the moment do that perfectly. And again, they just have 2 gigabytes download or 4 gigabytes download. And yeah, Orca, for example, is one model that is now publicly available on your PC. You have to download that one. For example, with a GPT-4All, that is a tool that you can download freely, and you can have different models in there that you can test. So that's pretty interesting. And we have another one called Mistral. Mistral AI is the French AI competitor, let's say. It's a startup company from Paris, and they try to get against OpenAI, and their models called Mistral, or they call them Mixtral, like a mix of something. And also those models are getting better and better and better. And they had comparisons last week, comparison charts, where they are competing with ChatGPT 3.5. So not the newest one, but they are getting against it with very small models. Models, again, that you can just download on your PC. So these smaller models like Orca and Mixtral and so on are really getting into the market now. And it's really interesting because programmers can do something with those. And because you can use them on small devices, I'm quite curious to see what kind of apps are getting out there in the future.
I agree,
Definitely.
especially.
Go ahead, Eric.
It just blows me away that now with what a mobile device, like, you got even on your phone, it's got 8 gigs of RAM, which is like, if you were 20 years ago to show someone a phone with 8 gigs, 12 gigs of RAM, like, they'd be like, no way, because that would cost tens of thousands of dollars to have on a computer. I don't know. Like, to me, hearing you guys talk about this, like, I'm like, who's leading the race within this whole thing? Like, what's really going on with all of these supercomputers? Because the information is just moving so quickly, and what are the possibilities? It's truly magical. Well, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say, we mentioned just a while ago when we were talking about Google Gemini Nano, but Google has another project that I really haven't explored, where they're also running or enabling LLMs on Android through something called Keras and TensorFlow, and they're apparently, I mean, steps that I read, it doesn't look that difficult to do it. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if does everything run locally, do you think, or do you think that there's still going to be some dependency on Google at the back end?
For the Gemini Nano, well, that's the big question. I haven't seen it, but I guess this one will really run on the local device. But it's a good question. Yeah, maybe it's still phoning home to Daddy Google, but on the other models, right? On the small Orca model or the small Mixtral model, those are really standalone. This is a complete
Okay.
LLM on your then smartphone or tablet or whatever. You don't need internet. If you want to chat with it and you don't have internet, no problem. You can ask it. It's it's really amazing. In this short amount of time, 1 year, we have ChatGPT
Wow.
out now.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
and the quality again, when I'm doing my testing with those small models and I ask it for sort me something, write me some code, whatever. I mean, it's not that far away from ChatGPT. There are differences, but not that big. And now imagine half a year. What's going to happen there? It's incredible. And last time, I think I showed you this small model that was also standalone, that was called Lava, and also just 4 GB. And this one was able to see images, and I could ask it about the image, right? Also that is implemented.
Right,
Wow.
right. Yeah, and
So I'd like to
talking
add.
about image. Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, John. No, go ahead. Finish yours, because mine is take you on another tangent. Go ahead.
So, just, I mean, to this point, I mean, I guess two things here, Chris. It's going to be interesting to see how these companies, and perhaps it's just, a model that people don't have to pay for, but surely at some point there has to be some revenue that comes in, allowing people to.
Well, that's kind of the question I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask you guys, both of you guys, to answer this, because you guys are so in on tech. So who do you guys think is like winning the race here with, because it seems like an arms race and everybody's trying to move so fast. Who is your guys' opinions of like, what you guys, and this is just straight opinion, we're not going off of matter of fact. I'm just curious to know like what you guys are thinking is going to transpire with all this competition.
Well, Eric, I mean, the big thing here is if I would know the exact answer, I would now try to get any kind of share of that company that's going to win and put all my money in there.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. I'm personally a lot always betting on the community. So I think Meta that is created Llama as an open source model. And now Orca that's why I did this image of the Orca sitting on the Llama. It was trained on the Llama model. I'm quite sure that those models in the end will flood the market. And if ChatGPT from OpenAI will be succeeding in the end, I have no freaking idea. Or maybe Google Bard. Oh, I can tell you. But I guess the community will win in the end.
Very safe answer.
Yeah.
How about you, John?
Well, I agree with Chris, unfortunately, because I believe that, for example, companies like Midjourney and Chris, we're going to talk about Meta's image generation. Is that next on the list or not?
We can, if you want to, yeah.
Okay, well, let's put that slide up on the screen, because, I think that's a good segue into what we're talking about here, because Meta released its own image generator where you basically, type in some text and you generate an image. And I have generated a number of images with it. And when I first typed in my first prompt, the thing that struck me was, wow, this is a very high quality and stock image quality, which wasn't what I wanted. I was trying to make, art, not photographic or stock image, and I was able to do that, by using, doing the style of certain artists and whatever. But going back to this point about in the war here,
Hmm.
I think there's going to be casualties along the way due to a number of things. And I think the first casualty is going to be the fact that companies like Meta are going to be offering services free to their users. And, Meta for sure is trying to encourage users to become authenticated or trusted or whatever the term they use is. But, how many options can one pay? And, unfortunately, I see companies like Midjourney, struggling as a result of this. And, it goes back to, what functionality can be provided right now to make this the killer product. And that's why I think you see bigger companies and, yeah, Meta's image generation's in total isolation right now. And I think they just put it out to show people, oh, yeah, we do have one. But, there's no community or anything else built around it. But
No, 100%. I was trying to go in and access it. I was going to try to do some testing because you guys know how good I am with the tech. But yeah, they were putting some obstacles in front of you to where like they really did not want you logging necessarily in through your existing Facebook account, to where it was like, okay, well, but yet it was, so it's interesting because they're not trying to make it readily available right now. At least that's my perception. I do want to go in and test it, but yep.
yeah,
Well, they
I
know
don't know.
you. That's the thing. They know you. They don't
Yeah.
want you. But they don't want me too. I'm European, so I'm not even getting on the website. Like, it's not for your region. Bad luck. So, well,
Oh, goodness.
okay.
But I do think for the wrap up from your guys' responses it's true. Like, people, if it's free and everyone's trying to train their models, Facebook can sustain losses. Google can sustain losses because anybody who's using, Google, they make so much money off of all their stuff with their YouTube product, where so much content is being put there. It's like they have so much power that I do think it's going to be hard at the end to compete, because these companies, if somebody else does succeed, they just buy them anyways. So they end up winning in the long run anyways. So I do think you guys are right.
What is YouTube? No, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is adding AI, but it's not, at the moment space where, the thing I see happening here with all of, not all, but, with Google, definitely Microsoft, is that they want you to use, and they've always wanted you to use, Apple's wanted you to use Apple, and Google's wanted you to use Google products, and Microsoft, Microsoft products. And so they're trying to build these little ecosystems where you don't have to go anywhere else. I mean, like Microsoft Copilot, right, will write copy for you, write text, it will create images, it will create music, it will ultimately create video, and it can write code right now. I mean, and so, I think it's ultimately going to come down to, perhaps Apple against Google, right? Or Apple, Microsoft, and Google. We'll have to see what Apple comes up with in space, and everyone's holding their breath for their virtual reality head-mounted display, and I wouldn't be surprised if they announce some AI integration with that. I mean, it has to be pay that amount of money for it. So,
No, I'm
yeah,
sure.
I mean, yeah, no, I mean the smaller companies, I don't know. I don't know what the
I did think that one product that one of our other members brought up that I thought was an interesting product was that looking glass that you're going to be able to see holographic images and bring them into your space. Like, to me, that seems really cool. This, as far as a technology that'll be coming out and accessible next year.
yeah.
For
Although
sure.
I don't think it's going to. I mean, if you're, it's not. I mean, Meta, for example, 2 years ago showed a clip of what they were. They actually showed, people playing cards and having dinner with all the family members that couldn't make it, sitting around as hologram. But I think the Looking Glass and Leninov, I think it was this year at CES, just a couple of laptops where if you get that sense of there being a hologram or that it's spatial 3D, but you're not really immersed in it. I think, yeah, I don't really know where this kind of technology is going to go, because my inclination would be, and I know this is impossible right now unless one.
Is the virtual girlfriend? Is that what
Real.
you're talking about? The virtual
No, no, no,
girlfriend?
no,
Are
no,
you
no,
circling back around to that, John?
no. I'm circling to the fact that to me a looking glass, a mirror, right, would
Yeah.
be something that I would want to switch on and then walk into, right, which I know is
Mm.
total science fiction right now, but I think that we will see something like that probably in the next 50 years, that you're going to be able to switch it on and walk into. Where it's going to take you, I don't know.
Really, like teleporting you? Like you literally will leave the space
No.
you're in and go into another
The
space? Is that what
theory
you're
of
talking about?
teleporting is not, I mean, if you look at some of the literature, right, I mean, there is evidence out there that
Hmm.
this has been able to
This is
be
like
done with inanimate objects, right? So, no, and I mean, the industry that would benefit amazingly is supply chain, right? I mean, the whole supply chain, if you could teleport, cases of whatever from one place to another, forget human beings. But
yeah.
my understanding and from what I've read is that they've had some moderate success in doing it, not to the point that it's commercially viable or feasible. Paper,
Hmm.
it is feasible that you can basically break down the atomic structure of a box, be created on the other side. But that's the problem, is creating it as you broke it down. So,
Yeah,
this is
well,
another one of those, like,
Hmm.
sorry, I
no, I
think
mean,
that is a little bit leading
Hmm.
away from our topic. And because one day I will have to call you a Johnny GPT the fly, because you went into a teleporter with a fly, and we know
Oh
what's happening
goodness.
then.
that's the danger, right? And I mean, look at AI already, right? I mean, look at what AI has done in terms of science. We've discovered, I don't know how many thousands of organic molecules that we didn't know about in time. I mean, it's taken us hundreds of years apparently to come up with those on our own. Made some other major breakthroughs in science as a result of AI. And this is just the beginning. And so, I don't think anything is possible, I think. And I mean, science fiction, I think, is a testament to that, right? Where people described airplanes and submarines. Go back to Leonardo da Vinci's days, where he drew pictures, helicopters, helicopter, and this guy's nuts because no human being will ever fly. And then
Hmm.
Wright brothers came around and we had them. So anyway, what's our next topic, Chris? Before we get, I totally
Yeah,
sidetrack us here.
yeah.
On
We
this
have
far out sci-fi, yeah, exactly. That was pretty far out there, but good job, John.
I don't
Way
think
to
it's
scare
far
the
out.
people. Way to
That's
scare the
the whole
people.
thing.
What did you say? Did you say 50 years or 15 years?
No, 50 years, 50, 50.
50. Okay,
Unless we wipe
so
ourselves, yeah, unless we wipe ourselves
okay.
off the face of the earth, which is, I think there's a higher probability of that happening than there not being a way to teleport goods in 50 years.
Okay, so let's try to find the next topic, and let's say what will be in 50 years with Midjourney. Now they have an alpha, right, for the website, and they're trying to do that for a while. So maybe they need the next 50 years to finish their website. What do you say?
Man, I mean, Midjourney has struggled with this right from the beginning, where they made the decision to go with Discord, and Discord, as wonderful as some of us think it is not the easiest platform to, fully understand. And so a lot of people found it difficult. But yeah, I mean, like 2 years ago, probably now, right? I don't have the exact dates on me, but definitely more than a year that they've been trying to get a website going and then abandoned that. And now they've started a new alpha. But, the question to me is like, what else do you guys offer? And so, David's big claim to fame when I used to go to office hours was that, Midjourney is the most beautiful images and nobody will ever get close. And, unfortunately, I can't agree with that anymore. I mean, at one point I would say, yeah, wanted high quality generated images, you would have to get any subscription, but the images being produced by all of these other image generators out there are, I mean, the secret is to know how to prompt them. And and so it comes back to this question of, why do you pay for something if you can get similar quality? And so, Midjourney puts up a website, but like, okay, so big deal. It now has a website, but what
I think it's still going to be tough to compete with everything else that's hitting the market right now.
It's definitely, I think, going to be tough to compete. And, what I'm hoping, and, this is me hoping again, is that Midjourney has, I think, the technology because they, you can pan images, you can zoom into an image, you can zoom out of an image, you can do other things, you can actually correct certain parts of the image. So having all of that technology, the next step to me would be coming out with video generation and 3D generation. We've talked a lot about, well, some of these companies have talked a lot about 3D. And, when I say 3D, it's basically low polygon game type 3D environments that they're talking about being able to create. And so, that obviously there's a niche audience there. I mean, if someone could come up with a way to create, perfect meshes and textures, by typing in a prompt, I think that would be really cool.
I mean, there are good examples already for quite good-looking models. I did 3 weeks ago. I did quite a big posting on LinkedIn about that, where I had, I think, 40 or 50 models created from prompts, and well, they are not perfect at all. But for 10 minutes, 12 minutes of creation, right? It's not too bad.
No, and it's getting there. And, I think that if we see one company out there that, offers This is, I mean, the company I don't think we've mentioned today. We've mentioned Google a lot and Microsoft, but Adobe, is working on that as well. And I mean, so Chris, I mean, to me, it's the company that can offer you the most, where you go there and you can do image
Yeah.
generation, you can do, or do you think it's specialized?
Yeah, Adobe for sure is not bad, but I would say that especially in this case of 3D models, there are new papers from NVIDIA, and they are amazing what they do in model generation with an AI. So that is really breathtaking how they enhanced um, their quality in the last month or weeks.
Yeah, NVIDIA is definitely interesting. The only thing with NVIDIA, in my mind, is that it takes a lot of processing power to do anything with NVIDIA's products. And I think we're still in that situation where, that's sort of a dichotomy because people want to move to the cell phone and have things run on the cell phone, but then still products that are just exclude the general population because of the processing power they take. But, I mean, just having said that, one of the things that is becoming popular now is being able to rent hours on a high-powered machine on the cloud and have whatever software loaded on it. Maybe it all becomes moot and you don't need a machine anymore in your house. You just have the space that's allocated to you. And
The cloud seems to have a complete magic to it. I love how they refer to that, just being tapped into something somewhere else, whether it's storing your stuff. And I feel like that's, in the future, that just seems way more efficient. I look at all these hard drives that have acquired all this data, that to me sounds a bit archaic, the way we've been holding on to what we've generated. What is the future of that? It seems to be moving to that for sure.
yeah, but that also means that, I mean, for example, if I don't pay my $20 a month to 10 I think, Google for Google Drive, all of that stuff goes away. And if I have it
Yeah.
on my on a hard drive, not to say that a hard drive can't fail, and they do fail, but the only way it's going to go away is if someone steals it, the house burns down.
Right. So we're running to the end of the episode. So I feel like we said we were going to talk the last couple minutes about the future, right? Or the wrap up, what's going into next year. Is that our
Yeah, I
final?
mean, I think we've been talking about the future here. I mean, everything is evolving right now, and I think that's one of the problems with some of these products is that while one can predict where they may go, none of these companies are above saying, well, we've changed our minds. We're not actually going to, bring that particular product out or support it more than anymore. And so, I mean, I think, to me, the future is just getting better and better and better to the point that you're going to be able to make AI video that actually, I mean, Pika is in alpha as well, early beta alpha. Very, very few people have access to it right now, but it's pretty good. Talked about stable diffusion video. I mean, that's, about 3D. Definitely the GPT chats. I mean, there's over, I think, 10,000, 11,000 people now, 11,000 creators on OpenAI GPT site.
I'm proud to say that I'm one of those, even though I only have 5 of them. How many are you up to as we're talking about wrapping this end up, Mr. Johnny GPT?
290, I think. 92
Okay.
maybe. Well,
Excellent.
290 for sure. Yeah, but it's not excellent because I'm, we've had this discussion before where it becomes a race to stay on the main page, right? Because I think, as Chris mentioned, a lot of people doing this, and this is a specific thing that they're looking for, a way to find it. One could be lost in the crowd, and so it's important for me to stay on that page, but it also means do that, I have to continue to come up with you. So
Yeah, the thing that I think is impressive with it, I think that some of these people have teams that are building all of these GPTs, and you are a one-man band, which is, I think, probably more impressive.
yeah, but I mean, I've thought of how they're doing it and really haven't figured it out because, even if you have it, sure, I could set a clock where as soon as I mean, you know, there's still no rhyme or
Yeah.
reason that I've figured out. Um, I could be doing something and then it times me out for 30 minutes. Then I get back onto 30
Well,
minutes and I can be doing
right.
something that
Well, we're
I get
almost out
timed
of
out
time,
for 2
John.
hours.
So not just talking about like the creating of these things, but I guess let's spend a minute. I'd like to, as we're talking about closing more, where do you see this things going? Like these things being API? Like what is your prediction for 2024? Because the store is supposedly opening for these things.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we've been saying is, these things are moving forward and one can only watch, right? I mean, to me, if, it wouldn't be, out of the realms of possibilities, and I very much doubt this would happen, but, it's just the nature of projects and technology, or it's not limited to technology, just any project where, they could say, no, we've decided not to do this. Or the courts could come back and rule and say, we finally decided that everything you guys suck down into, these large language models is actually, infringing on copyright, and you need to delete it all and delete everything everyone has ever done with it, right? That's not beyond a possibility. Okay, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's one of the risks that we face right now because all of this is up in the air. We don't know. I mean, people still continue to do stupid things like try to register an AI as being an author or an inventor or whatever. And I fully agree with the courts that, that's stupid. Why? How can a machine be an inventor,
You
right?
can't make it a
And why
Thomas
would you even?
Edison?
No, why would you even try? I mean, what would
Right.
be this? It's stupid. It's just
Yeah,
using
totally. So
AI.
100%. Hey, John, we're almost out of time, and I think we gotta hear from, not to cut you short, but I feel like we gotta hear from Chris. We got 2 minutes left. Unless you want to wrap up really quickly. What's your thought?
I say yes to everything, basically. So we will be surprised, and that's the point. In half a year, I guess we have so much changes in all this, in the usage, in the development. People will think completely, not differently, but in other dimensions. So let's wait for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as
Okay.
far as technology goes, probably the biggest thing that I'm looking for is spatial video and what's going to happen there as a result of Apple's Pro. So I think, that could really change this whole, the technology space. Instead of us talking about, AI, I mean, last year we were focused on, the metaverse, and, maybe next year the focus will be on spatial video, 3D video, and all of a sudden we'll have, cameras flooding the market and whatever. So it's an exciting time. I don't think one can disagree with that.
So for me, I want to say this has been a pretty amazing. I mean, finally, I feel like with the Quest 3, I got a taste of some augmented reality within a couple of the games that they're putting out there. And, it's really what I was hoping for in the last model that they had. So it's definitely has some elements to, you're like, wow, these are the possibilities. So for me, just sitting back as like a consumer, kind of processing where we're at with everything. And in filmmaking, I look forward to creating more productions and what we've been doing with camera angles, multiple camera angle shoots, um, processing, within all of this technology in there and pushing boundaries to seeing what we can do. And it's been impressive, but I look forward to continuing to push that envelope with amazing lighting, camera angles, and just bringing in different realms. And I feel like it's just endless of where we can go. And I really look forward to seeing what they can do with motion capture, because we've been talking about that the last couple of years. And does that become affordable to where now you can really plug in and have where you could really do some amazing capturing video-wise in the metaverse? So I still believe in the mysteries of the metaverse, and I look forward to what they're going to unveil in 2024.
Good. Well, I think it's time for us to turn off the lights for the season. It's been a great year. Thank you for those of you that have listened to the show and followed and liked us. We're on YouTube at Virtual Film Company. We're on Facebook. Please join us. We're always looking for everybody. We're looking for, camera people, actors, people that are good at social media. I won't keep on going, but I don't think there's anyone we're not looking for. Let's put it that way. So we're not exclusionary, and can help and are excited by this technology. Would love.
I think we're not looking for
us.
people who are not excited about technology. Those are some people who are not looking for. We're not looking for those people.
Well, right now.
They probably wouldn't find us. They probably wouldn't find us if they were not into technology anyways. All right, you guys.
So we're taking.
It's been a good 2023. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's been a good 2023. So I appreciate all you guys do. Carlos, is great having you here to capture these moments today to close out the year. So as you're seeing with today's camera show, we have multiple camera angles, which, to me, this is the future of what we can really do here. So thank you.
Yeah, Carlos Austin streaming. So definitely keep that in mind. And we are all going on a vacation until January 10th. So Wednesday, January 10th, we should be back here. But check our Facebook page for updates. We'll post.
Are we really going on vacation? Because we're not going to be here doesn't mean that we're not going to still be creating and working. I feel like there's still more work to be done.
No, I am going from here to the airport, and I'll be lying on a beach, ramen cokes and chewing on grilled shrimp and guacamole for the next few weeks. So I wish. Right?
Will you enjoy that? You enjoy that.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and it's been a good year. So next year will be even better.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. Thanks. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. I can't hear.